morning, everybody. I'm Joe Schroder. I'm with Realty One out of Kokomo, serving Howard County and our surrounding areas. Approaching year 6 in the business, 30 years old. Knew right from the very beginning where I wanted to go. Spent my entire time with RE/MAX. Excited to be here.
I'm Judy Wood with RE/MAX Oak Crest in Elkhart, Indiana. I'm 33 years old and this is my 5th year in the business. I have 2 kids and just trying to manage life and work, that's for sure.
Great. Kelly Sullivan, RE/MAX Real Estate Professionals in Columbus, Indiana. Married, 2 children. They're older, so I don't know how people in this industry succeed with small children, but apparently they do. I'm a late bloomer. I didn't start this until I was 40. I just started my 6th year, and I wish I would have started it 15 years earlier.
All right, so we're going to start with Kelly. Kelly, what first motivated you to get started in real estate, and what surprised you the most about the business?
Honestly, my motivation was money. That's how it all started. My husband and I have always worked 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet, and I've always been in the customer service industry, and I feel like I've always excelled at customer service. So we sat down and researched one day, like, what would be a great job for me to do so that we don't have, not that we don't have to work so hard, but so that we can work, maybe he could work a little less. And so what surprised me was the money's great, as most of you know, but I think for me it ended up being more about the passion. Like, I absolutely have a huge passion for this industry and what we do and how we help people. So,
Very good, thank you. Judy?
I was a stay-at-home mom for 5 years, and then when my kids went to school, I worked a 9-to-5 job, and it was super hard. So I really got into real estate for the flexibility and kind of wanted to own my own destiny and be my own boss. But it was surprising that it really didn't free up a whole lot of time. But it's been really great.
But you are your own boss.
Yes, that's
Okay,
true.
there you go. Joe?
I can relate to all those things as well. I think for me, it started as just kind of my love and passion for houses. Real estate was always an interest of mine, always something that I wanted to get into. And for me and the market that I was in, I didn't know that it would be, a viable full-time career. I looked at it as maybe this is going to be a retirement gig later in life. And got caught up in kind of a corporate mentality job, changed over in management. I was just no longer happy, and I thought there's no better time than now to kind of jump in and take some risk and see if we can make a go of it. And also kind of my passion for marketing, that was something that I had always dealt with in previous roles, and the concept in real estate that the sky is the limit. I mean, you get what you put into it, and there's no limitations. I think once I got into the business, the biggest surprise was the realization is you go through that pre-licensing course, and they're teaching you how to pass the state test. And it was that realization of, hey, I've got to sponge everything here. The on-the-job training is where you're going to get your start, and, what you've got to absorb to make it go. So.
Very good. All right, so we'll start with you again, Joe, this time. Would you consider yourself a natural self-promoter, or was that something that was really uncomfortable for you and you had to learn?
For me, it came natural. Marketing had kind of been my background before. I had got into real estate, and realizing that in this trade, you're not just selling houses. I mean, we're selling ourselves, and so by way of marketing and establishing common ground with folks, whether it's your buyer or seller. Just building rapport with people, selling yourself and getting them to, believe in your ability to, help them. So.
Very good. Judy?
I am not a natural at self-promoting at all, but I think it gets easier as you get more experience and you're more comfortable. It kind of just comes natural then at that point. I found it and do find it easier to have like a professional bio sheet that lists your accomplishments and what you have to offer as an agent. And I like to leave that at listing appointments for people to look at when I leave, and it makes it a little easier that you're not giving a spew about, basically tooting your own horn for an hour. So yeah.
Kelly?
I would say this is a definite no for me. I don't have any marketing background, and I didn't even know where to start with the whole marketing part of it. Like Judy said, I feel like the more you're in the business, the easier it becomes. But it was really hard for me in the beginning to go out and confidently say, I can help you find a house when I didn't have a clue what I was doing. So the self-promoting was very, very hard for me in the beginning, and I hate bragging on myself. Like, I told very few people I was even going to be here today because I'm like, I don't want them to know. And it's a huge accomplishment. It really, truly is. But I'm not that self-promoter, and I just feel like my clients are good at promoting for me through their referrals, and so I'm still not great at it, but I'm getting better.
All right, Kelly, we'll start with you this time. How did you first learn about RE/MAX, and why did you choose to join RE/MAX?
Well, I wasn't planning to join RE/MAX, believe it or not. I worked a full-time job my first 3 years of real estate. So when I got my license, I went to my boss. I was in sales through an insurance company, and I told him that I wanted to do real estate full-time, and this was something I had studied and prayed about for a long time. And he gave me some ridiculous offer to stay, and I was actually going to a competitor in town. Thank God he had a different plan for me. And so the other competitor wouldn't take a part-time agents. And so I met with Jean and Annette, and I fell in love with them, and they're awesome. And again, I thank God every day that this was a different path for me, and that I didn't go to the competitor's place, because we have a blast in our office, and the camaraderie there is what I'm looking for, and we just have a really great time.
All right, Judy.
Yeah, I just knew that I had to have a big brand behind me starting out. I mean, just like she mentioned earlier, you get out of school and you're like, okay, I still know nothing, basically. So I used RE/MAX and their tools to win listings and get people to trust me because I had nothing really else. I didn't have sales numbers or referrals yet, so I pretty much knew that I needed RE/MAX to help me with that.
Thank you.
And I would agree with those as well. I'm saying kind of the overall brand and reputation that RE/MAX holds in the market that I work on the local level. I mean, kind of I knew going in I wanted to be affiliated with experienced agents and folks that work the trade full time. Where I'm at, there's a lot of folks that do real estate as a hobby business part-time. And I kind of thought, well, if I'm going to go in, I want to go all in and do this full-time. And so those things, and then just kind of the overall professionalism within our office, training opportunities, through both managing broker on the local level and then the corporate resources that we have at our disposal.
Now, when you got into real estate, how did you let all of your family, friends, and your network know that you are now a broker, and how did they respond?
So I took kind of a different approach because I was transitioning from, another job. I kind of did everything silently. So I got all my ducks in a row and aside from just a few trusted individuals, nobody knew that Joe was getting into real estate. So, implemented all of that, got through, and got established with my broker. At which time, took the necessary steps to let the cat out of the bag and, let everybody know, here's where I'm at, here's what I'm doing. And, as part of that, I did kind of, some implementation ahead of time, compiling a list of contacts and people that I had dealt with and networked with. Who do I want to, get this out to? And so by way of some of that, along with social media, which is great, and sending some of that out viral, those are the methods that I utilized.
Okay, Judy.
Yeah, so I created a database basically on a Word doc. It was not anything special, of everybody that I knew. I mean, I'm talking like baseball coaches, everybody. Because I kind of feel like everyone you know is a lead essentially. And I reached out to them, sent them letters with cards, letting them know I was in the business, and started a Facebook page, a business Facebook page, asked people to like it, and started engaging with people on Facebook. I posted a ton of listings from my office that weren't even mine, sort of to make it look like I hit the ground running, but I didn't really. But you gotta get yourself out there right away and get going. So
Excellent advice there. Kelly.
For me, I just called family and friends and kind of told them, what I was planning on doing. My husband and my older sister, they're my biggest cheerleaders. So they were a great resource. My sister's a local lender, so that's helpful. A great resource to pass out business cards and those kinds of things. Social media was a huge part of it. I just kind of put it out there. And when I told my mom this was what I was doing, she told me I was absolutely crazy. So I had to prove her wrong. So here I am.
Well done. So the next question is very similar. Some of you answered part of it already, but what exact steps did you take to build up your sphere of influence and implement an actual database? So we'll start with Joe.
So kind of going back to that last question, just kind of a lot of mental preparation as I was taking those steps to get licensed and exiting, a previous job, building that list of contacts and people that I had networked with, and constantly adding. I mean, it was something that you just, somebody else comes to mind, and you're always, adding and thinking and working it that way. So.
Excellent. Judy.
yeah, so I used social media a lot for this. I highlighted in my database the people that I thought was the most influential in the community, or different areas, like career areas. And you can actually go on Facebook and turn on notifications for certain people. So I do that monthly, really. Go in and make sure that I'm getting notified when they post something, and then start engaging with those people so that they're seeing that you're liking their posts, and they're seeing your name on there, and that's been working well for me, actually.
Okay. Kelly.
For me, I was born and raised in Columbus, so I feel like that I already knew a lot of people, and I'd always worked in an industry in customer service where I already had trusted experience with those people. So those were the people that I kind of reached out to initially to let them know how my career path had kind of changed. And I think that was really helpful, just I was in photography for 20 years, so I knew a lot of people through the photography industry, and then obviously I was in insurance for 5 years, and just the customer service that I'd given to them prior has kind of rolled over. It's amazing to me how many people have reached out from photography 25 years ago and been like, do you remember me? And I'm like, yeah, let's go to my house. So that's that's what's it for me. Just being from the Columbus area, I think has been very helpful.
So do you do your own listing photography, and how much do you charge? I think everyone wants to know.
I am not for sale. So I do my own photography, but I'm not for sale.
That gives you a competitive edge for sure. All right, drone, do you do drone?
Well, my husband and I just bought a drone and he's getting licensed, so
Fun.
we're on our way.
Sounds good. Joe, so in the beginning, what did you see as your biggest challenges or myths, like anything you heard about real estate before, or your biggest challenges just in this new career path?
So I think that, as anybody can attest to, it's the overall wrapping your head around, hey, I'm going into 100% commission line of work. And just having to adapt to that sink or swim, fake it until you make it mindset. The biggest myth that I encountered was, and I can't speak for all, RE/MAX offices, but, I think it's this belief that RE/MAX is for seasoned agents only. And when I started getting some feelers out about, where do I want to go, what do I want to do, I had somebody on the local level that said, RE/MAX is for seasoned agents only. And that, as I've been in the business now, I found that to be a false statement. The opportunities that we have available and at our discretion are going to set you up for success if you're willing to put in the work. So that's what I learned.
Thanks, Joe. Judy?
My biggest challenge was really knowing how to find clients. In the beginning, you don't really know. I mean, I think it took me like 4 months to get my first listing. So just kind of knowing how to get started, I feel like it's challenging, and you're just kind of waiting. I mean, you can only look at the MLS so many times and you're like, okay, this isn't gonna get me a client. So yeah, that was my biggest challenge. And myths, I agree with the RE/MAX. I had a lot of people think that I was crazy for joining RE/MAX right out of school. But I needed to be in a place, not only such a big brand as RE/MAX, but somewhere where I had to work. I had to get out there and find clients because, I mean, I know other companies, if you don't sell anything, you still don't have to pay anything. And I needed that to kind of push me.
Good. Kelly?
So my biggest challenge, and still, is probably advertising. Have a real big weakness in that, and there are so many options. As you know, you get emails and phone calls every single day, and which avenues do you take? And unfortunately, I've probably spent a whole lot of unnecessary money, but I had to learn it to figure it out. So that's by far been my biggest challenge. The myth for me was that you get to set your own hours. We all know that's not true. And so, you have to go into it that if you don't show them, someone else will. So, your weekends are tied up and your evenings are tied up. And so that is by far the biggest myth for me.
Once you got your license, how did you actually start learning the business? Who was your mentor, coach, your broker owner? Did you shadow an agent? Let us know exactly how you started that training process.
So I'm a self-learner, and I feel like if you just jump in both feet and read and watch videos and do those types of things, that if you just get in there and do it, that you'll remember it. So that's how I teach myself, and I feel like I just jumped in both feet and just kind of took control all on my own. However, as you guys know, we have great broker owners. And so anytime I had a question, I could go to Jean or Annette, and they would obviously take time to sit down with me and make me understand things that I didn't understand. And my first big mistake was telling someone that an earnest money wouldn't be deposited, and then their bank draft got overdrafted. And so just things like that you are unaware of and you think you know everything, going to my broker owners has been a huge help to me.
Judy?
I think that real estate's experience driven for sure. So I definitely went on a lot of listing appointments and showings with my, at the time, broker owner, Barb Pierce. And she would go over with me how she would prepare from initial contact to what she took with her. And I got to sit in on the conversations and the real time experience, and that helped me a lot. Yeah, and I asked a ton of questions.
And I meant to ask Kelly, have you looked into real estate coaching, or do you have a coach now? Or
I do not.
You're just jumping in?
I'm just a control freak.
And Judy, how about you?
What's the question?
Your go-to, who's your go-to mentor that you have right now?
Oh, still Barb Pierce.
Good.
Yeah, yep.
Hi Barb, is she watching?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, Joe.
So for me as well, just kind of mentorship and consistent training with my broker owner. We worked together daily for several weeks. She would consistently tell me stories, scenarios. We play things out, as experience would allow, or past experiences would allow. And then I think also just so important to, aside from that mentorship and training, to seek somebody out that is established within your group or your network of who you're working with. You need to find somebody to kind of take you under their wing. And so a couple seasoned agents in my group were instrumental in doing that for me. And, it was constantly riding along, listing appointments, practicing market analysis, going back to kind of that sponge, just sponging it all up. How to talk to people, how to handle your clients, and just throwing yourself in that mix and constantly observing. And also being very observant of, competitors and other peers and what everybody's doing, and then using that to build your own business.
Good. All right, let's switch the conversation over to technology. So Joe, what role has technology played in your 5-year success so far?
So I'm really bad. I probably don't embrace 100% of the technology that's available and out there. I'm kind of a young, old school person in that regard. I always say technology's great when it works. We all have challenges with that. In my business, the biggest thing that I utilize, I think from day one, it was the DocuSign stuff, which whether it's DocuSign or some other form of e-signature, just in the last 5 years, our business has evolved so much, and you can't hardly conduct business without it. And so time-saving efforts in that regard, that's probably the biggest thing that I've embraced in my business.
And do you use a CRM of sorts, or is Lead Street it, or?
So when I tell you the old school thing, I have an Excel spreadsheet
Oh
that
my
keeps
God.
me organized.
All right, I'm
It
coming.
works.
We're gonna have some training.
It works.
This is an intervention, everyone. Thanks for being honest about that. Judy.
Yeah, I think technology is everything in this business. The DocuSign, the zip forms, and I think it plays a key role in balancing your personal and professional lives. Even just having your sellers download the Showing Time app so that they can accept showings and you can automatically send the feedback. I mean, that's like life, I feel like. And I do like Mile IQ to track my miles. Pixaloop's a cool app where you can enhance your photos and like make the clouds move and stuff like that. So I like to keep it fresh and try to do different stuff. I use a measuring app as well to measure at listings. And I just found out that RE/MAX has a photo app. And it's actually quite amazing. It's like 99 cents a photo and they look really good. So I'm gonna definitely implement that too.
All right, Kelly, technology.
So I'm borderline on technology. I mean, I embrace it when I feel like I have to have it, and then I don't if I don't. Brian Buffini's a program that we did last year in our office, and there were 8 of us that did the program together, and it was awesome, and I learned so much from his program. So I actually use his CRM now, and it holds me accountable for a lot of things that I didn't do in the past. Obviously, texting is a huge lifesaver for people who work during the day and they can't answer the phones, but they can text. I use the Mile IQ. Dropbox is huge for me. Zip forms and DocuSign. So I embrace it if I have to.
Well, there you go. Sounds good. So Kelly, we'll start with you on this one because you said you don't have a marketing background, and this is definitely something you want. It was hard for you when you started. But what types of marketing do you do right now, whether it's online or offline, direct mail, social media? What are some of the things that you're doing today?
So for me, the marketing part of it, Facebook is huge. I mean, we know how many people are on Facebook every single day. So it's very big. The other thing that I do is I get out in the community. So I don't do a lot of mailings. Through the Buffini program, we learned, to send postcards and notes to your clients, and I do that part of it. But I don't really consider that, I guess it is marketing, but it's just something that I try to do every week. I sponsor a lot of golf outings. I sponsor 5K races. I do a first-year teacher appreciation. When they bring the teachers into BCSC, there's usually 50 to 75 teachers. And I donate like koozies and pins and stress balls. And they really appreciate the stress balls. So marketing is, like I said, definitely my biggest challenge. I've tried the grocery carts that you see at Kroger and JC and Marsh and everywhere else, and I think it's overrated and it's way too expensive, but that's just my personal opinion. And then I also tried Zillow, and we all know where that's going. Big no.
Yeah.
So really, I think like for me, the marketing piece of it is getting out in the community and just kind of rubbing elbows with people and getting to know people from other people. So
Good. Of those events that you sponsored, how did you promote them before they happened?
So the golf outing that we do is through our church. So we promote it at church, and then we put something in the newspaper thanking the sponsors and those kinds of things. The 5Ks, I have a girlfriend who runs the 5K for the fire department in one of our surrounding counties, and I sponsor it every single year, and we're on the t-shirts, and they do a nice job Facebook, and we do a nice job Facebook-wise to kind of help promote those things, and we put flyers in our bulletins in church and things like that.
Very good. Okay, Judy.
I rely on Facebook a lot for almost all of my marketing. For my high-end homes, I'll do, a local magazine, sometimes the newspaper, which I don't think is very effective at this point. But certainly Facebook is my go-to. I think my average is like 4,000 views if I boost it for like $100. And if you do an ad in homes and lifestyle, it's $100 and some, and someone might see it at the local breakfast joint. So yeah, Facebook is really my go-to. Instagram I do obviously as well. I used to send letters to for sale by owners and expireds. I've never gotten anything from any of that, so that never really worked for me, so I don't do that anymore.
So I think for the benefit of the audience, a lot of you aren't quite sure what to do with Instagram. Would that be a true statement? Yeah. So could you share a little bit more in depth what you do on Instagram?
I'm still getting there. I don't have a lot of advice on that. I do the automatic thing with Facebook and Instagram because it makes it easier. But I think that there's a different generation on Instagram than Facebook. So I think if you're going to spend money with Instagram, definitely make sure it's a target price range or whatever. I don't think if you have a listing that's like 500, a high-end listing, I'm not sure you'll benefit from Instagram, but that's just my opinion. But yeah, I'm sorry, I'm still learning too with that.
Well, and that's pretty common. I still think as a whole in real estate, there's still kind of that unknown, and I hear from agents all the time that they get business from Facebook and LinkedIn, but I've never had anyone say they could directly relate it to Instagram. So,
Yeah.
but you have to have a presence. You're absolutely
Yeah.
right. So thank you. I put you on the spot.
That's okay.
All right, Joe, marketing.
So I can relate to being kind of a Facebook fanatic as well. I utilize both the free stuff and the paid stuff. Kind of business page wise, I do a lot of like the targeted sponsored type ads, boosting posts, zip code specific, age specific, that type of thing. And then kind of like on my personal page, I utilize that, kind of after closing type thing, keeping that, communication there and interaction there beyond the sale, because those are folks that are going to be sending you other people. And, I'm, kind of the type that we put it out there, the sold pictures and that type of thing, do a lot of tagging, and I do get a lot of that back. I'll get people that'll say, hey, you sold so-and-so a house, and, we want to list with you, or you sold their house in a week, we want to list with you. So that's been instrumental in a lot of that, referral boost type thing. Also in my market, outdoor advertising has been very effective. It's not the cheapest, but by way of the billboards throughout community, that kind of goes back to not necessarily promoting listings, but more like the self-promotion, selling yourself to the public. And then I would also say, kind of like with the RE/MAX tie-in, I use this line a lot on listing appointments. You can list your house with anybody and get on your realtor.com or your Zillow. You list with RE/MAX, us being worldwide, I could not begin to list all of the websites that our listings sync out to. And I'll rattle them off, which ones I know to prospective listing people, but that list is so long where our listings hit and sync out to. And really nobody else can offer that. So I utilize that, kind of doing that brand tie-in as well.
So talk to me a little bit more about outdoor, because I think everyone in here was, wow, that's interesting that it's working. So talk us through what you've done and how you can directly relate results back to that.
So what I did, I shook things up in my market. I was the very first agent to really ever do it and put it out there. And people started seeing it, and people, competitors caught on, I guess you could say, and they implemented it as well, and kind of had that billboard war going on, is what I call it. But my approach with it, RE/MAX as a whole puts out so many good marketing slogans and themes and branding, and what I would do is kind of take what is available at our discretion and then put my own spin on it. So kind of creating a brand within the brand. And so like kind of as an example, I guess I could say everybody's seen, the slogan, we know real estate, or go with those who know. And so I kind of put my own spin on that. Joe knows real estate. Nobody sells more real estate. So there's different things that I utilized, taking what's out there for us and then kind of putting my own spin on it. And the billboard avenue has been really effective. What I do is I try to pinpoint, where, how are you getting my name? Where is it coming from? And people will say, oh, I saw your sign, or, that type of thing.
Penny has something to say.
I just wanted to add to that. I think that Joe, one of the biggest things is people see you on the way home every night or whatever. Then they see you out and they think they know you. They've seen you every night when they go home. And all of a sudden someone comes up to you and they say, hey Joe, you have no idea who they are.
Exactly.
But they think they know you because they've seen you day in and day out. And I think that's big.
You're Joe, the real estate guy.
Yeah. You know real estate.
So how many billboards do you have out there, or signs?
So at any given point in time, probably 10 to 15, and I just kind of keep a constant rotation throughout the market area. And of course, I've got favorite spots, but in that type of industry, there's no such thing as maybe a good spot or a bad spot, because you're going to constantly capture people going, venturing different directions, different neighborhoods, different zip codes.
Well, I think now everyone's going to connect with you on social media. We want to see pictures of them. So are you doing digital or just straight up traditional billboards or both?
Just traditional.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. Congratulations on that. That's huge. All right. So the next question is, let's talk a little bit about referrals and versus newly generated leads. So okay, we'll start with Kelly. What percentage of your business is referrals versus just, random online newly generated leads that you get?
So I would say 70-30, 70% probably referrals. I'll get a lot of referrals. I don't get a lot of lead generation. I don't pay for leads. And the only way I get a lead is if it's through the RE/MAX website. I do $50 a month at realtor.com, and I occasionally get something there, but it makes it worth it because I eventually get something from there. And as we know, $50 a month is not bad for advertising. And most of my new clients that I get, I really meet at open houses. I don't really do the lead generation part of it, but I host several open houses, and just being friendly to those people and not following them around and making them feel uncomfortable. And I think that that's a big plus, and they just kind of come back around, and then I just ask them if they have any questions at the end, and we end up striking up a conversation. And so I get a lot of brand new leads from my open houses.
Very good. Okay. Judy, what's your percentage of business of referrals versus just new leads?
Yeah, mine's pretty close. My referrals, which are year to date, are 28%, and my newly generated leads are 39%. I do a lot of open houses, especially if my high-end listings right now are sitting a little bit longer than a couple years ago. So I do a lot of open houses. I don't think they sell the home necessarily, but I do meet a lot of clients or customers that end up being my clients. So do those open houses.
Okay, Joe.
I don't do open houses. Sorry. I would say though, like Kelly and Judy, probably 70 to 80% of my business base is referral from past clients after 5 years. I kind of tell my story that, probably year one that was totally flipped. I was maybe 20% listing, 80% buyer. That became more of an even balance, and now as business has grown, I'm predominantly on the listing side. But those past referrals, like I say, every call that I get, I do make a point to say, well, how do you get my name? And I love it when people say, it was this person or so-and-so, or you sold my friend's house. And I make a point, I take that information and, it might just be a simple text or a call, but I always go back and thank those people because I want them to know how appreciative we are of that, referral source. And it makes them feel good, warm, fuzzy feeling. They're going to keep doing it, sending people, routing them your way, and, just kind of keeping that interaction there. So that's how I've done it.
Well, good. So you've all done a great job, obviously, with referrals. So could you share with everyone how you keep in touch with your clients to get those referrals? Like, how do you stay in front of them? So Joe, we'll start with you.
So kind of as I said before, I utilize Facebook for a lot of that. Of course, not everybody's on there, but I do a annual calendar mailing. I too, as Kelly mentioned, do a lot of like community involvement type things, networking and events out in the community, and you just want to be everywhere all the time to everyone. So
it sounds like you get referrals not just from past clients, just from people that know you, which is great. So, Judy?
Yeah, I think it depends on the client. I think it's important to keep every relationship with your client authentic. So if that's contacting them via Facebook just to send them a message and ask how they're doing, or if that's email or text message or phone call. I've even used my database to go through and highlight and say, these are the people I'm gonna get in touch with this month, and do that and keep going down my database. But just keep those relationships authentic, I think, is really important.
Very good advice. Kelly?
So for me, staying in touch, a lot of it is social media. I do a lot of giveaways on my social media. Last year I did a pumpkin carving contest, and I delivered 100 pumpkins to different clients. And then I had them carve the pumpkin and put it on there. They had to tag so many people, then those people tagged people, and then whoever had the most votes for their pumpkin won a basket of goodies and some gift cards. So that was a lot of fun. I did some giveaways for some concert tickets last year. We had bought a pack of concert tickets, and some of them I couldn't attend, so I just give them away on Facebook. I do a lot of the Popeyes, thanks to Brian Buffini. If you don't know what those are, if you get on Pinterest and just type in Popeyes, you'll find a bazillion of them. I do a lot of notes, so if I do get a referral from someone, not just a text or a phone call, but I'll send a little thank you note with a $10 Starbucks gift card in it or something, and they really appreciate that.
Okay. So this is definitely a big question. How do you prioritize lead generation activities versus administrative? So we'll start with you, Joe.
So I hate to admit, but this is one that I struggle with. I'm an individual agent, no team, no assistants. I'm juggling it all. Just closed my 173rd transaction of the year on my own. So the time management and lead generation versus admin, I struggle with. I maintain and I survive, but I would say a big portion of my time I do get bogged down on the admin stuff. I mean, we all know the paperwork is never ending, and the scanning and the emailing and the busy work. So juggling that and then still maintaining, those referrals that are coming in, trying to be there for everybody. It's no easy task, but that's what we sign up for. So,
Judy?
Yeah, I feel like delegation is key with this, but we kind of chatted about that. It's a lot easier said than done. It's hard to train someone or, let administrative people in your office take care of things, because they don't do it like you do. Nobody does. But I think it's important that when you get to that point where you need help, you try to delegate those tasks, because it'll make your life so much easier. I just hired an assistant, and she's mainly my marketing coordinator, but it's been so much help. So try to delegate as much as you can.
So Judy, would you mind sharing with everyone what the vetting process was for you to find an assistant and what made you choose that person?
Yeah, it's not really a marvelous story. She's one of my best friends. She was transitioning between her jobs. I'm like, well, I could use some help, and she's like, I could use some help. So that's kind of how it started. It just so happened she has a marketing degree, so that's where she took off for me, and yeah, it's been good.
At what point did you finally recognize that you needed help? Like, what was that moment for you?
My kids are really active, so really it was more about struggling to maintain my professional and personal lives. So yeah, it got to be a little too much, and you don't want to stop. You want to keep the momentum going. So yeah, I needed a little help with that.
Okay, very good. Kelly?
So for me, the admin part of it is hard. Like Joe said, I'm the same as him. I'm an individual, and I kind of do it all myself, and we have control issues, so it's very hard for us to kind of hand off. I tried it last year, and it did not go well, and it lasted about 2 weeks, and I said, I can't do this. So if I could find somebody who I could trust before the process even started, I think that's huge. I think it's hard to hire somebody that you maybe don't already know to come in and start helping you because they don't really understand the business. And what I found with this person was I was on the phone with her more than I was on the phone with clients throughout the day because she had so many questions. So the training process was probably my struggle, so she's not around anymore. Anyway, we have an opportunity to do phone time at our office every day, and they're 3-hour increments, and I force myself to do that at least once a week, and that's my admin time. And I know that's not enough admin time, but I really focus on admin for those 3 hours that I'm there, and it's amazing what you can get done in 3 hours if there's no distractions. So.
And to put you on the spot, like I've been doing, what particular things do you consider admin? Because obviously on a regular basis, you are scanning documents, you're sending DocuSign, you're doing all of that, but what do you save for that 3-hour period?
Oh my gosh, there's so much. So a lot of it depends. So, obviously if you have a closing that week, you got to get all your packets ready to be turned in. If you have inspection responses that need to be done, I sometimes do my notes during that time to send out to my clients. There's so much to do. If I don't have particular paperwork to do, I try to do a lot of watch videos on marketing and those kinds of things because I'm so bad at it. And I come up with really good ideas during that 3-hour time, and then I leave and I never think about it again. So I do need some help on the marketing side of it, and I would love to hire somebody that's great like Judy said then, but again, it's all about control.
No, absolutely. Does anyone out there have any tips they want to share in finding an assistant and kind of interviewing process? Who has an assistant out there? Okay. Paul, do you want
get
to?
what you pay for.
You get what you pay for. Interesting. Okay. Anything else? Pam?
If the job you're doing can be done for $15 an hour, it's time for an assistant.
That's
Pass it
true.
off.
Absolutely. You hear a lot of the coaches will say you're worth $100 plus an hour. If you're doing $10 to $15 an hour tasks, it's time to hire someone because that's taking away from your income producing activities. What methods or tools do you use each year for business planning and tracking your income and business expenses?
So I hate to bring it up again, but it's those spreadsheets. I have one for my active buyers, one for my active sellers, one for my closed clients, and then I have kind of a separate workbook that I track all business expenses. So I'm always updating, always saving. Knock on wood, it's not failed me or crashed yet. So
Please tell me they're in the cloud somewhere.
they are.
Google Sheets, at least? Okay, I'm just checking. So no, that's good. Anything else you do in the way of like business planning do you use any particular system or or like a Buffini or something like that?
I don't. I get asked, I've got agents that I work with that they've got, detailed goal setting plans that, I hate to say it, mine is up here. That's how I operate.
And it's working for you, so that's good. Okay, Judy.
I have a P&L, which my assistant, who's watching by the way, hi Jenna, she set that up for me just this year. So I try to go by the method now that I have that to begin planning ahead, you have to first glance backward. So I go back and try to find alternative cost reduction, like for instance, maybe you don't need to hire a professional photographer for listings under 70,000. Use the Remax photo app that I found. Yeah, so, and you can look back too on your P&L and what clients are you working with more, target those clients, find different ways to work for your existing clients even after the sale. The P&L's been really amazing. I also try to say don't lose discipline when times are good. Ask yourself what you do in a downturn and do those things now. Because we never like to be in that position where we're like, uh-oh, we don't know where our next paycheck's gonna come.
Okay, very good. All right, Kelly.
So again, Buffini, I know I keep saying it, but I did learn so much from that program last year. And so he really keeps me on task and tracks things in the program. And I think that as far as the tracking goes, I was not real strong at this in the past. And I think it's not until you realize that you're doing well that you realize how important that it is. And as far as goals and things like that through the Buffini program, we really kind of start small. So you start with a 10-day, and then you start with a month, and then you start with 3 months and 6 months. So I do everything small goals. I give myself a yearly goal on what I think I want to do, but I really just try to baby step throughout the year. I have a dry erase board at my house that sits in my kitchen unless company comes over, and then I put it in my office. And it has my goals on it, and it has my progress on it, on what I'm doing, what I've done throughout the year. And then Gina and Annette have always been great about telling us to take photos of things that you strive for. Like my husband and I wanted to go on a cruise this year, and we were able to do that. So I had a picture of a cruise boat on my dry erase board until we were able to actually go on a cruise, which he hated, by the way. But it's off the bucket list.
It's a good guy right there. So actually for all of you, and in case inquiring minds want to know, at what point, if you could put a timeline on it, did you realize that you're making a profit, and not just a profit, but a big profit? So Joe, how about you? Any ideas? Was it the 1 year, 2 year? Where were you?
For me personally, I mean, again, it's one of those things that it's always been just kind of a mental game for me. Year one, like I said, I came out of kind of that corporate mentality job. I was accustomed to, here's my salary, here's what I make. Year one, I'll be a happy guy if I hit that. And, so check that off the list. Year two, hey, I think I'd like to double that. Check that off the list. And every single year, just seeing that growth and kind of that, mental check is what keeps me going. So
Very good. Judy.
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
So it's okay. I'm putting them all on the spot. We're just having fun. So, no, I know. So what, if you could put a timeline on it, at what point in your first 5 years did you realize you were making a really good profit in your business? Was it 1 year, 6 months, 2 years? Where do you think that was?
In my first year, my first full year of real estate, I got the 100% Club Award, which I felt was really huge. And I didn't really know how well I was doing, to be honest. I mean, I knew that I was making money and it was fun, and so I'm not really good at tracking all that. I think it's a natural thing to kind of compare yourself to other people though, so I do check numbers and stuff, and I was keeping up with the seasoned agents in my office, and so that was kind of the point where I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna do this.
You've arrived.
Yeah.
Kelly.
Probably within my first year, for sure, when I could go home and say to my husband, you don't have to work any more overtime, which has ultimately been a goal for us. And I mentioned at the beginning of the program that we've worked 2 and 3 jobs just to try to make ends meet, and for him to get to go to work and work a 40-hour week and come home and have my dinner on the table when I get home at 8 o'clock is huge for me. So he's fantastic. He cooks, he cleans, he does yard work, he does laundry. So he is definitely my backbone, and he's so supportive, and I think that is really important to have a support team at home. If you have a spouse who's saying, when are you going to be home, when are you going to be home, when are you going to be home, and you said you're going to be home at 7 and you're going to get home till 8:30, where have you been? Those things can really wear you down. So having that support system at home has been really big for me.
Good. So Kelly, we'll start with you this time. We touched on this already, but what do you actually outsource in your business? We know it's not photography. Yeah. What do you outsource, and then maybe what do you want to move towards outsourcing?
So I don't outsource, unfortunately, and I am going to try to get better this next year. If I could find a marketing person, that is where I need the most help. But again, it's really hard for me just to let go and let them do it. So marketing is what I'm going towards, but at this point I don't outsource anything.
Okay. Judy?
I do photography, the 3D tours, the Matterport, the drones. Obviously, you do those for your higher end. You know, you filter that. And I think that managing relationships is just about being respectful of their time. Don't be the agent that's like last minute, I need these photos tomorrow, they want a list tomorrow, and being transparent of what you want from them.
Very good advice. I like that. Joe?
So I never outsourced anything until this year. I made my baby step. I'm doing the outsourcing of the photography now. It's becoming a bigger thing. I mean, keeping that edge with competition, maintaining that professionalism in the appearance and the way that you're portraying. You know, what started as I'm just doing it on these high-end houses has now become, hey, I'm doing it on everything. Give them all the same level of service. Treat your $50,000 listing the same way that you do your 500. Set that standard. It's freed up time, simplicity and editing, uploading, that type of thing. You know, clients are loving it, and you know, just kind of taking that marketing to the next level.
Okay. So part of marketing, Kelly, will be a marketing budget, right? She's like,
Yeah.
oh.
We need those business expenses.
Yes, yes. What was the real moment for you when you realized that this is the career for you and that you are succeeding at it? So we'll start with you, Joe.
For me, a combination of things. I mean, I think getting that pat on the back from your client, you know, after every deal, every transaction is kind of that, you know, you light up. You're at the closing table. Both parties typically, folks are walking out happy. People genuinely appreciating your services. You know, that does it for me. And then kind of on the goal setting level, I guess you could say, you know, within our RE/MAX group, you know, hitting these different tiers and just kind of setting your goal each year. Hey, I want to hit the executive club. Hey, I want to hit the, you know, platinum club, you know, and just kind of, you know, check mark those things and kind of feed off of that.
I think everybody defines success differently, obviously. For me, it was more when I realized that I was impacting families, how appreciative they are, especially if you get somebody that comes from a bad experience with another agent or something, and they think you are like God. And that's what I get to do for a living, so that to me is success for sure.
Kelly?
I totally agree with that. Just the pat on the back from your clients. And for me, you know, I did have that full-time job for the first 3 years. I didn't necessarily need it because I started out with my feet on the ground running, and I feel like that I started out successful. Well, I shouldn't say that because my very first transaction fell apart. But it was a good experience, and we relisted the house and got another buyer, so it was fun. But I love the fact when people come up to you and say, I've had such a horrible experience with another realtor. I don't love that they had a horrible experience with another realtor, but for them to appreciate our patience and the things that we do for them is definitely huge.
But we want to hear funny stories. Funny, pleasant, but hopefully funny is what we like. So I'm going to start with Kelly. Tell us a story, a really funny story that's happened to you in your first 5 years, or more than one.
So the one I came up with, I could come up with several, but it involves a 3-year-old child, and we had been out on a Saturday looking at several houses. I think we had 8 scheduled. We looked at 4, took a lunch break, and did the other 4. And while we were there for the second segment, this little boy decided he needed to go to the restroom. Well, as you know, all kids want to use everybody else's bathroom. So they said, "Is it okay?" And I was like, and I was fairly new, and I'm like, well, I think it's weird that you're using somebody else's bathroom, but I guess if he has to go, he has to go. So they decided to go upstairs and use the restroom, only to find out that it was broken. So Dad has to go outside. He gets sticks out of the yard, a plastic bag out of his car. I mean, it was horrible. So I had to call the agent and explain what had happened. And I said, "You might want to put a sign on that commode saying that it's out of order." So it ended up being really funny. They didn't buy the house. But it was really funny. And as you know, kids seem to make things funny all the time. So
That's great, thank you. Judy?
I think we touched on how we didn't really know much out of school or what we were doing. And I remember I was preparing for my first listing appointment, and I told Barb, "Can we meet? Can we go over things? I don't know what I'm doing." And she said, "Yeah, bring me your marketing materials." And I was like, What are marketing materials? I don't know. I don't know what that means. And now I have a marketing coordinator, so that's very ironic. But yeah, I remember not knowing why I needed to know what a title company was. A title company guy came in, sat in my office for 10 minutes, and he left, and I was like, why? Why did he just tell me all of that? So yeah.
Yeah,
That's so
absolutely.
fun.
I'm sure that was, and look where you are now, so now you're running the show. All right, Joe?
I'd say I've encountered lots of crazies in the 6 years. But just kind of on a pleasant note, more than anything, I think just great people that I've become acquainted with in this business, other agents, clients, just all around folks and experiences that I wouldn't have otherwise ever had I not taken the plunge to get into the business. So.
Very good. Okay, so let's kind of flip it over now and let's talk about challenges. I don't want to say bad things happen, but can you tell us a story where you faced some major challenges and what steps you took to overcome it with that client or that situation? So Joe, we'll start with you.
So as most people can relate, I would say probably those darn inspection responses. Also maybe some of those transactions that end up being tougher than others, maybe where you're representing both sides. I kind of just go by the belief that if you operate with integrity, everything's going to be okay. In my office, anytime that a challenge is posed, my broker owner's question back to you is, who do you work for? Take a step back, think about that simple question, and then proceed accordingly, and your problem will be solved.
Okay. All right, Judy?
I don't necessarily have a story of a challenge. For me, most of my challenges have been with working with other difficult agents, to be completely transparent. I think it's so important to know that you both have the same end goal. You need to be available to work through those challenges together, because in the end you want to go to closing, and I know we have to represent our client, but you're also supposed to work together, because that's where we want to be, is at the closing table. So yeah, just be available, be honest and nice.
Very good. Kelly?
So I could probably write a book on this, but one in particular, I had some clients come in from Colorado that I'd never met before, and had randomly chosen me off the RE/MAX website. And so we go and we're looking at all these homes, and unfortunately we chose a for sale by owner, and they had signed a contract stating that they would pay the commission. And so we are a couple weeks from closing, and the lender calls and says that the appraisal came in $20,000 short. So I have to call the for sale by owners and explain the situation to them, and he said, well, we're not willing to take $20,000 less, and I said, okay, I understand that, so we're just gonna move on. So I call my clients and I explain to them that we're unfortunately not gonna get this house because they're not willing to sell it for what the appraisal came in at. The for sale by owner people proceeded to Facebook stalk my clients, send them a message and tell them that they would be happy to sell them the house for the price that it came in at, but they did not tell them they were cutting me out of the deal. They just said, we hope that your realtor told you that we'd be willing to sell you the house for this price. They were furious with me. They thought I was trying to kill the deal for some crazy reason, and I didn't know these people on a personal level, so they were leaving me very rude messages, and I was with other clients, and so this was 3 years ago. So I called the lender calls me, and it wasn't my sister, by the way. Another lender calls me, and she said, well, I understand that they're gonna go ahead and move forward with the deal. So I asked them to have a face-to-face meeting, because I am one of those people like, don't text me, let's not do it over the phone, let's sit down and have a conversation. So they come to the office, we sit down and we discuss it, and I explain to them that they can get that house, but really what these people are trying to do is cut me out of the deal, and that they can get that house, but they're not gonna have any representation. So thank God they understood what I was telling them, and so then they became furious at the for sale by owner people. And then on top of it, the lender told them that I could do all the paperwork for $500 for them. So then I had to deal with the lender. So this is just an ongoing bad plan. So we moved on. We told the for sale by owner people, forget it, we're not gonna buy it. They still haven't to this day sold the house 3 years later. And the people bought another house from me, and we just started looking for another house. They called me 3 years later, and now we're gonna sell their old house and we're gonna buy another house. So it all worked out, but it was very stressful.
So if you could go back to day one, you got your license, day one in real estate, what 2 or 3 things would you do differently?
I think that I would learn more about marketing before I got into real estate, because I think it is really important to be able to market yourself. And as I've said several times, I'm not strong at that. So that is definitely one thing that I would do. The other thing that I would do is realize who your time suckers are. People who aren't really serious about buying a house, and all they're doing is wasting your time, and realizing that it's okay to say to them, I don't have time for this. So, in a nice fashion, obviously. But getting rid of the time suckers would be a big one for me.
Okay. Judy, day one, what would you do differently?
I would probably reach out to title companies, because I don't know who they were. Lenders, home warranty people like that. I would probably spend a lot of time meeting with and finding out what they have to offer, because again, I didn't know any of that, and I feel like I could have offered so much more to my clients in the beginning had I known all of that. And I think I probably would have taken a business course, because I mean, essentially you're running your own business, and I'm just starting to do, just now 5 years later, some of those, you know, like the P&L and all that stuff. So yeah, I would have tried to learn that a little earlier, I think.
So I've got a couple thoughts on that question. After being in this business, you know, I think many folks, you know, as have been mentioned, you know, wish we would have taken the plunge sooner. After doing it, I can never imagine doing anything else. I think my biggest advice would be to get involved in the trade. You know, I'll kind of use the term, don't be a ghost agent. When I say that, I mean, go into your office, become a part of your office, network. You know, we have, you know, things on the local level, you know, in your offices. We've got RE/MAX things. You know, throw yourself in the mix and, you know, put yourself out there. You know, as a result of doing that, I mean, you're going to meet so many good people and make those contacts. And then kind of another piece of advice, and this was, you know, preaching to myself here, but in our business, it is so easy to get engrossed in your work. and still finding that balance to make time for yourself. That breakaway time for your health and sanity. That was hard for me, and I've kind of taken a step back and really focused on that the last couple of years, and happier as a result. And business hasn't suffered.
Okay, thank you. So I have one more question for them, and then we're going to open it up for questions from all of you. So Joe, how would you sum up your success? Why are you sitting here today? When I took a look at everything and saw who the standouts were at the 5-year mark, what do you attribute your success to and the main reason for it?
I would say, just stay hungry. You need to remain driven and determined to succeed. Failure's not an option, but have fun with it at the same time. The freedom that we're allowed in this business, we're so blessed because, that's not of most trades or industries. And so, again, kind of embracing, that luxury and, ability of what we have, and, build a good life for yourself.
Excellent. Judy?
I just think you should stay authentic, and this business is about building those relationships and be honest and authentic, and that's why I think that I've been so successful. And just you work hard obviously, but keep everything real and honest.
Thank you. Kelly?
Definitely working hard every day, and I think just continuing to love what you do. I think if you don't have a love for this business, you're not doing anybody any favors by being in the business. So I think loving what you do is really big, and also helping others. So something that we've never been able to do in the past due to financial reasons, and now that we have the extra income, just going in and being able to help those who need to be helped. So,
what's the best way to get your first listing?
Okay, so in case you didn't hear our audience, he said, what's the best way to get your very first listing? So Joe, we'll start with you.
I think just keep planting those seeds. For me, it was a combination of things. I did solicit for sale by owners, as uncomfortable as that was. Expired listings was huge for me. Hey, your listing fell off, what can I do to help you? That type of concept. And just keep the networking going, and it'll come back to you.
Judy?
Yeah, those things actually didn't work for me, as far as the for sale by owners and expireds, but I relied on my friends and family in the beginning. Reach out to them, have them reach out to the people they know, their friends and other family, and still to this day, a lot of my business is my friends and family, so I would definitely keep hitting that with them.
Okay, Kelly?
So my first listing was my husband's aunt and uncle, so definitely friends and family is where it all starts. And just being confident when you talk to them, so that, because they know you're new, so being confident with those friends and family, obviously studying up on the materials before you go talk to them about it, but friends and family by far.
Yeah, you definitely have to own your role as a realtor. You just gotta say, okay, I'm a realtor, and start sharing that life with everyone, and once you start doing that, they're gonna just think of you as the realtor then.
And I would add to that too, you take the good listings with the bad ones. My first one was a $12,000 abandoned house, and I found out what a minimum commission was.
Okay, so I'll repeat the question for everyone else. The question is, do you give discounts on commissions or incentivize your commissions for family and friends? So we'll start with Kelly.
I do. They understand my role, and I try not to discount the buyer's agent if I'm listing for a family member. And so I try to be fair in that aspect, and I try to take the discount all on my own. But I definitely do. And if I have seller who is also buying and they're upgrading, then I also try to do something special for them also.
Judy?
Yeah, for my immediate family, I will cut my commission a little bit. But if I have the buyer and the seller, then I'll work with you on that.
My answer is everything is negotiable.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Good question. Paul?
3 questions, but I think you all can answer them. How much do you spend a month on marketing? That includes your billboards. How many hours do you work a day or a week? And how many vacations do you take a year?
Wow, it's 3 questions. All right, we'll start with the first one, which was how much do you spend per month on marketing, right?
Which includes your
Okay.
billboards.
Okay.
Which includes what?
My 15
Which includes.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone wants to know how much Joe's spending on billboards. Are
You'd
you
be
the-
surprised.
You're the
You'd be
mayor of
surprised.
Marion and Kokomo, right? Okay,
Um,
go right ahead.
I would say $2,500. I mean, I'm on a good plan on that. I would hate to tally the hours that go into it. Of course, it's on my, on my turf. I mean, it's what I want to do, when I want to do, how I want to do it. But there's definitely a lot of time that goes into it. Probably every bit of that, 60, 70 plus hour week. And I do like to travel. I usually get me a good one in every year, and then if I can squeeze in some little weekend getaways here and there, I'm a happy guy.
Good. Okay, and you have how many billboards again?
10 to 15.
Wow. All right, I'm gonna go cruise through Kokomo and Marion.
Burkhart Advertising.
Okay, so that's good to know. Everyone's from Indiana here. Judy, how about you?
I don't have a monthly. Year to date this year so far, I've spent about $9,000 on marketing. And I go on spring break with my kids and my husband every year. I'd like to do more of that because I think it's important.
Probably spend $500 to $1,000 a month. Again, I'm all about rubbing elbows, and that doesn't cost anything except time. I probably average 50 to 60 hours a week in hours. But I definitely like to play too. So in my first probably 3.5 years, I didn't vacation at all, but my husband and I are getting ready to go on our 5th one this year, so.
I mean, Joe, impressive with the 170 plus transactions. Do you do time blocking? How do you schedule a month out, a week out for your time? Like how you're managing
Day to
that
day.
program day to day?
Day to day.
So for
Yeah.
everyone out there to know, the question is, how do you, to Joe specifically, how do you time block and manage 170 transactions at a time? So
I carry my weekly calendar book and plug in and scratch and scribble, and gets me through.
time blocking for the other two. So Judy and Kelly, what do you do for time blocking, prioritizing?
I use my iPhone calendar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you take it day by day.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Again, I use the iPhone calendar, and you just don't ever know. I mean, I could have 0 appointments tomorrow and wake up and have 10. So every day's just different.
I'd like to hear again, start over your first 90 days, no budget. What are you doing?
Okay, so for everyone else to know, so the question is, your first 90 days, you have to start over, you have no budget, what do you do? So we'll start with Kelly.
Definitely the free advertising through Facebook is huge. You don't have to boost, you don't have to do advertising, you don't have to pay for the ads there. Social media is free marketing up to this point. They keep saying that that's going to change over time, but utilizing that free social media is good for your first 90 days.
Okay, Judy.
Network as much as you can. Give every person you meet your full attention. Everyone's a lead. Be authentic and just get out there and talk to people and tell them what you're doing and have them tell everybody too.
Joe?
I'd say Facebook, a roll of stamps, and your cell phone.
That's good. It's a really good question. Anyone else? Drew?
What would you say to an agent who was working with a different how does the brand itself help you kind of take off so quickly? What would you attribute to RE/MAX?
Okay, I'll repeat that again for the virtual audience. That's a great question. So Drew asked our panel, if you were talking to an agent from another brand, how would you explain to them how RE/MAX has helped catapult your career in the first 5 years? So we'll start with Joe.
So for me, I don't know anything different. I mean, it's all I've ever known. But outsiders looking in, I think you have to take a good hard look at what your vision for yourself is. And for me, wanting to jump all in and be 100%, I'm big on money. I mean, that's just how it is. And I don't want to put those efforts and all that time and energy in for somebody else to reap the benefit of, what I'm doing. And so I would tell anybody and everybody, just take a good hard look at and assess the numbers. We all know, it takes spending money to make money. And, as Judy had mentioned, I mean, you do have that RE/MAX brokerage fee hanging over your head each month. And as a new agent coming in, that can be quite intimidating. But on that same token, it kind of gives you that extra push and motivation and drive to succeed and build that rapport with your broker, and they want you to succeed as well, and they're not gonna let you fail if you're invested in on it. So.
And Joe said earlier, if you recall, and Drew, I don't know if you were here for that, but he talked about the global aspect of RE/MAX and how he talks about that with his clients quite a bit. So thank you, that's a really good question. Judy?
Yeah, that's same for me. That's all that I had to win listings, and I used it, and the resources are amazing. I mean, you just print out all this stuff, and you've got, all of a sudden you have all these marketing materials. So yeah, I think the support that you get with RE/MAX is huge.
Thank you. Kelly?
The resources that you get through RE/MAX are incredible. The trainings that they offer, and the live videos, and the things that are recorded that you can go back and watch again. I think that that's huge. And like they said, somebody said earlier to me when I was a question about how do you find that right marketing person, and I think on this aspect of it, it's you get what you pay for. And so, like Joe said, you got to spend money to make money, and RE/MAX just backs us so strongly that I don't think there's a company that can touch it.
What marketing failures have you guys experienced, and you'll never do it again?
Okay, so the question was, what marketing failures have you experienced? So in other words, what would you never do again? So Kelly, we'll start with you, because your marketing's your favorite.
I touched on this just briefly, but I did Zillow for 6 months. It's so expensive, and the leads are, yes, that's a good word, crap. And so I think I received one really good lead in that 6-month time frame, and those clients are still my clients, and I still visit them, and I have a great relationship with them. And so I would say Zillow is a big part of it, a big downfall. And then I did the grocery carts also, and I don't know if you were here doing that, but it's very expensive to do those grocery carts, and they don't narrow it down to one realtor in our town. So when you go into Kroger, there's 5 realtors on the grocery cart. So you're paying pretty big bucks for the grocery carts. And I also got some pretty creepy text messages and phone calls due to those grocery carts. So that's a no for me.
Wow, yeah, I guess that can happen, right?
Yeah.
Judy?
Like I said earlier, and it sounds like it was the opposite for Joe actually, but I never got anything out of for sale by owner or expired, sending those mailings out. I do advertise in the local schools, like for their sports programs, and I usually do a fairly big ad, and I do all of the local schools, so there's like 5 or 6, so that people are actually seeing that even as they travel to the different schools for the different games. And they're quarterly, so it lasts 3 months, and then you can do the next season, like the spring sports and stuff too. But I'm a big fan of that.
Joe?
For me, and this is because of my background before real estate, I'm going to tell you print media. I think newspaper advertising is kind of a dying industry, a dinosaur, you could say, in my market. I would agree with Kelly. Zillow, I think what they started to do, what started as maybe a good thing has become a bad thing. They started playing agents against agents. You know, you're doing X amount, here's what your competitor's doing, and constantly upselling back and forth. So I quit playing the game with them. And then I think too, just anywhere that you advertise or market, I think it's good to kind of be aware and conscious of, you know, some of those things that are exclusive. You know, as Kelly mentioned, you know, some of these you've got multiple competitors doing the same thing. And so kind of thinking outside of the box, you know, what's something that only I'm going to be on or only my office is doing, and brand that exclusivity.
With as many transactions as you guys have done, what, I don't know, struggles or opportunities have you had with language barriers?
Okay.
You don't speak the language, you got a client calling you, and they speak very broken English, you're looking for a house, how do you guys handle that?
So for everyone to know, the question is, have you experienced any language barriers with any of your clients, and how do you overcome that? So Kelly?
I've actually had a couple this year. I had not had any in the past. But I think the easiest thing for me to do is to meet them face to face. We clearly aren't having an understanding over the phone very well. So it's a little more time consuming than what you're used to if there's not a language barrier, but meeting them on a face to face basis. I don't really have a translator or anything, you know, that helped me with that, but I feel like if you're face to face with them, you can understand better.
Judy, have you had that?
Yeah, for me, it's probably a little different than everybody else, but we have an agent in our office that speaks a different language. So I typically will refer them if it's to the point where I can't communicate with them. I'm doing them a disservice with that, so I'll usually refer them.
Joe?
My experience with that, I mean, in 6 years is really quite minimal. I really haven't encountered that, but to Judy's comment, I think if it did come up, I would probably, you know, treat it the same way, you know, maybe find somebody else that is better suited, or, you know, Kelly's approach and maybe, you know, via email, text, or face-to-face where there's more, you know, clarity and dialogue.
Well, and I've heard of many instances where a lot of your peers around the region will go to a local college and just get a translator. And for whatever that language is, they'll contact a college, they'll reach out to maybe certain, I guess, civic groups or something like that if that's what they're needing. So that's a really good question, and the fact that we're global, if you haven't encountered an international buyer, it's very likely it'll happen at some point in your career. I'll actually ask Jean and Penny, with their years here at RE/MAX, I'm sure you've experienced that at some point or gotten a referral from an international buyer. Any words you want to share on that?
We've gone to our local college,
Yeah.
little Indiana University in Kokomo, and asked for a translator and brought them into the office.
Perfect, and probably for a very minimal cost, I would imagine.
In fact, I'm not sure they asked for anything but dinner.
But dinner, okay, you can take them to dinner, I like that. Oh, so we do have a question from Gus. Hey Gus, from Crown Point area. He's asking if any of you are taking steps or thinking about hiring a buyer's agent. So we'll start with Joe. He loves this topic.
Tossing it around.
So what, but I think we all could agree maybe you need to hire an admin before a buyer's agent.
Sure.
All right, yes, there's that. So it's a good question, Gus. Judy?
I haven't really thought of that honestly much. This year for me has been more on the listing side, so that's probably why it hasn't been top of mind. I wouldn't toss it out completely though.
Okay.
I would say no. Actually, another agent in the office and myself had tossed around the idea of teaming and doing some things, and we spoke with Gina and Ned, and we spoke with actually some other managing brokers who have that a lot in their office, and kind of their advice to us was, if you're not related, a husband and wife team or a mother-daughter team or something like that, it can really become a struggle. So unless you're gonna like have a huge team and you're just going to be leader of that team, for me personally, it would be hard just to bring somebody else on, so.
Switch back over to the live audience. Carrie?
I just thought of another question. After a closing, what site do you use to ask your clients for a recommendation? Do you like Zillow? Do you like Realtor.com? What do you use?
So here I am bashing Zillow. But I do utilize the free aspect of that because while we hate it as agents, or most agents, the reality is that's where our consumers are at. I mean, it's a user-friendly app for the most part. I keep it on my phone because I want to see what my clients are seeing as well. And after I do close a transaction, I go in, I utilize my free profile, I log the sale, I represented seller, I represented buyer. I have kind of a templated message that I can customize to them, pop it out to them, and you can be selective about that too. You don't have to send it to everybody. Send it to the ones that you know are gonna sing your praises, but I do utilize that.
Do you use Google too, or just Zillow?
I haven't really done anything personal business-wise with Google or Yelp.
Judy, how about you?
I use Facebook because I feel like most of them are probably on there anyways, and so it's
So your business page or just your?
my
personal?
business page.
Okay.
Yeah, yep. I'll just shoot them an email and ask them to go to my Facebook business page, and they can even do just the stars. But yeah.
The Remax 150s working really well for us.
The Reach 150, yeah, absolutely.
And we have it set up so when we turn in our closing packet, I just automatically put my clients' email addresses on that closing statement. And then the girls in our office actually send the email out for me.
Right.
But then it comes back to me.
Mhm.
So whatever they type in comes back to my email. And then I choose if I want to post that somewhere or not, so.
Okay. Yes.
For someone, I'm just 2 weeks old in real estate.
Woo, 2 weeks in.
So someone that's brand new and has, when you first started, you fork out a lot of money for LIBOR and all this and other things. What was your best tactic for, besides Facebook and networking with friends and family, to get yourself out there to spread the word of what you're doing?
But for
Besides
free,
LinkedIn,
right?
Facebook,
Yeah.
networking with your church and friends. Have you
Okay.
guys ever done like neighborhood something? I mean,
Well,
summer started,
I
your
think
first 2 weeks? first month?
absolutely, probably farm the area where you reside, reaching out to those folks, in your neighborhood or subdivision, and kind of claim that as your turf. And then, without stepping on, the toes of maybe a partnering broker or whatnot, again, finding that individual to kind of take you under their wing, maybe get hooked up with somebody that doesn't have the time to tend to, all the buyer leads and work out some kind of arrangement where you've maybe got a referral source within your own, group or office space, at least to get your start and get established.
Judy?
Yeah, it takes time, I think, in my personal experience. So if as much as you can get out there and network and talk about what you're doing and owning that you're a realtor and sharing that part, that's the best thing that I feel like I did.
And I think too, counting on your friends and family to help you share that news. It can't just always be about me, but if somebody else is giving you that referral, even though you probably haven't done business with them yet, it's good for them to network for you. So kind of pushing your friends and family, giving them some business cards to pass out for you. I think is helpful also.
And offer to do open houses for people. I did that a lot.
I would go back to also, don't get discouraged because it takes time. I look back almost 6 years. I started in January, and it was one of the worst winters that we had had in a long time. And 3-4 months into it, I questioned myself, did I make a mistake? What am I doing? Do I need to go find another job? And, through constant reassurance, I'm glad I did it. But keep planting those seeds because it will come back to you, and don't give up on yourself.
Sure. Paul?
The number one promotional product that you've purchased that's worked for you, excluding your business card, what's your number one thing that you like to have on you at all times?
Mine's easy, it's the canned koozie with a beer in it.
I have
There you go.
I have a license plate. My license plate says Remax 4. I have the pop socket. I have the umbrella. I just try to do it all. I go to my kids' baseball games and I wear the sweatshirts and the hats.
That you're handing out, things that you're giving.
Oh, that you're giving people. Oh, I do the pop sockets. I do those a lot because everybody loves those right now.
I do cutting boards, the loose boards, and clients like them at closing. So they're taking a piece of you to their new home.